Voyager National Park became a park in 1974, named for the French-Canadian canoemen who traveled these waters in birch bark canoes. The park consists of a little over 218,000 acres. Number of visitors last year was a little over 237,000. Over 40% of the park is water. Tourism brought in $18 million into the local economy last year, supporting 237 jobs. The purpose of Voyager National Park is to preserve for the inspiration and enjoyment of present and future generations the outstanding scenery, geology, biological diversity, cultural resources within the vast interconnecting waterways, resources that shape the historic fur trade of North America and constitute part of the historic route of the Voyageurs. The park and its diverse resources provide outstanding opportunity for outdoor recreation, scientific study, sports fishing, education, and appreciation of the North Lake country setting. "18 American Indian tribes are culturally associated with Voyager National Park. Voyager National Park has been occupied by humans for nearly 10,000 years. European explorers began in 1688. The industry in the area, history, gold was discovered in 1893. They started mining it in 1894. 4 years later, the gold rush went bust. The logging boom was between 1880 and the 1890s. Virginia and the Reedy Lake Lumber Company controlled all logging to the east of St. Louis County. They cut the logs down and floated them to Hoist Bay, where they were loaded on rail cars that went over the top of the water, and then they were hauled to Virginia, Minnesota to be cut into lumber. Commercial fishing started in the area after the logging boom of 1880s and 1890s, and it peaked in the 1890s and early 1900s. Voyager National Park is one of the few places in North America where you can see and touch rocks half the age of Earth. The exposed rocks you see all around you on the southern edge of the volcanic bedrock that forms the core of the continent and is from the birth of North America. At one time, massive explosive volcanoes deposited layers and layers of ash and lava. Subsequent uplifting, tremendous pressure, and superheating created igneous and metamorphic rock. Over time, erosion wore down the volcanic mountain range, and the ice ages brought glaciers that moved rivers of ice and scored away young rock layers. This action exposed the root of the ancient mountains, the granite, the magmatite, and the biotite. As the glaciers receded, torrents of melted water filled the low-lying areas, creating lakes and bogs of today's landscape. Today, the oldest rock in the park tell a human story. Fault zones exposed 2.8 billion years old greenstone revealed gold-embedded quartz veins. The discovery sparked a short-term gold rush in the late 1890s. Many of the newcomers stayed for good, and their descendants live in the region today. Voyager National Park has some of the oldest rocks in the entire planet. They're even older than the ones found on the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Geologic features and processes in Voyager reflect two widely separated time periods that form the present landscape. The older 2.5 billion year old Precambrian Archean and the Pliocene Epic Ice Age. The Archean rock at Voyager are associated with mountain building. Igneous and metamorphic rock are exposed in Voyager. During the Ice Age in the Pliocene Epoch, which began 190,000 years ago, the region experienced at least 4 periods of ice glaciation that shaped and carved the bedrock into today's landscape seen by visitors today. Glacial striation and glacial grooves appear as parallel linear scratches and furrows on bedrock and erratics. The advance and retreat of the Pliocene glaciers as recently as 10,000 years ago left an incredible imprint on the rocks in Voyager. Glacier erratics, or ice-rafted rocks, are abundant in the park. These displaced blocks range in size from pebbles to blocks the size of automobiles. Glacier landforms can be observed throughout the region. Dozens of lake basins, outwash, mostly sand and gravel, and till deposits. Today, the rugged and varied topography include rolling hills interspersed with irregular slopes outcropping the bedrock between bogs, beaver ponds, swamps, islands, small lakes, and there are 4 large lakes in the park. Voyager National Park has less than 10 miles of paved roads. Because the park is a full 1/3 lakes, ponds, channels, and other waterways can be accounted for this watery national park. There's no roads in the park, and the park, if you want to camp, there's actually no campgrounds in the park either for campers such as. You have to take your boat and go out and tent someplace. But you can get almost anywhere you want with a boat. They do allow motors in the park, whereas in the Boundary Water Canoe area, almost all the park is, you have to paddle. In Voyager, almost the whole park, you can use a motorboat, or in the wintertime, other motors. So if you do want to camp and you do want to use a camper, there is a park, a state forest park, right outside the park, and it's actually connected to Voyager National Park, and it's called Wood Frog State Park. The weather in Voyager National Park can vary greatly. Lowest temperature recorded was 55 degrees Fahrenheit below zero in 1909, and the highest was 103 in 1923. There's proposed mining around the area of Voyager National Park. 2 of the bigger mines here are Polymet Mine and Twin Metals Mine. The Polymet Mining Corporation proposed a sulfide mine called North Met Project B between Babbitt and Hoyt Lakes, Minnesota. And Twin Metals is proposed a sulfide mine by Birch Lake, southeast of Ely. The metals that they plan on mine are copper, nickel, platinum, palladium, and gold. Copper is used in our electrical systems in our houses, in our automobiles, components for new wind turbines, solar panels. Nickel is used for stainless steel and also in our hybrid car batteries. Platinum and palladium and gold are used in making catalytic converters, fuel cells, medicines, jewelry, and many of these metals are in our electronic devices that we use today. Economic value to Minnesota is huge. There's an estimated $1 trillion in minerals in that area. It would amount to thousands of mining jobs, thousands of construction jobs, thousands of local supporting jobs, and millions of dollars in taxes for Minnesota. The proposed polymet mine estimated that they would employ 425 to 450 people permanently. Indirect employment would create up to 3,600 jobs. The mine lifespan is predicted to last maybe as long as 40 years. Twin Metals estimates from 2,000 to 2,500 individuals would be hired permanently for the mine, 12,000 construction jobs, and a mine lifespan between 22 and 50 years. Polymet's mining proposal, a lifespan of the mine of 20 to 40 years. They plan on an open pit mine, 3 of them. Excavating these 3 craters the size, the first one is 278 acres, the second one is 54.5, and the third one is 118 acres. And they will dig down into the ground 440 feet, 550 feet, and 760 feet. They plan on excavating about 91,000 tons of ore a day. Over the lifespan of the mine, about 400 million tons of waste rock. Twin Metals' lifespan of the mine is between 22 and 50 years. Excavation is an underground mine, so it's not an open pit mine, possibly underneath a Birch Lake, and then the area between Birch Lake and the Boundary Water Canoe area. Excavation possibly 80,000 tons of ore per day, and they plan on putting their tailings in old Dunca mine pit and also other mine holdings in that area. If you look here in the bottom right hand corner, the blue area, that's mining exploration, but there's the little green area where if you see Birch Lake there and Ely, that green slashed area, that's actually where Twin Metals plans on putting their mine. So it's most of their mines are in Superior National Forest. Some of it is in private land, but they actually own the mining rights underneath the land, and the owners own the land above it. None of it is inside the Voyager National Park. It's outside of the boundaries, but all the water runs actually into it. So what is sulfide mining? Sulfide mining in terms of the upper Midwest referred to mining metals that are found in sulfide-bearing rock. So the sulfide is already in the rock. It's buried hundreds of feet underground, and it's not harmful deep in the ground. Non-ferrous mining, it's not iron mining. Hard rock mining is used in much of the country for mining metals such as gold, silver, iron, copper, zinc, nickel, lead. It normally does not count iron mining. Sulfide mining has never been done in Minnesota before. It's been done throughout the country, but Minnesota's never had a sulfide mine yet. One of the drawbacks of sulfide mining is that acid mine drainage. What acid mine drainage really is when sulfide rock are pulled up and they mix with air and water, that runoff becomes sulfuric acid. And the drainage can be discharged from a variety of places in the operation of the mine. Any place where the ore comes in contact with air and water. In the open pits, the walls, the waste rock pilings, the tailings, or underground tunnels. Another thing with the sulfuric acid, as it runs off, it also picks up heavy metals such as mercury, lead, and the sulfuric acid in concentrated forms is actually deadly to plants, people, and animals. Once it's diluted, it's still not good for them, but it won't kill them immediately. Preventing this chemical reaction and toxic leaching is a big problem. For instance, the proposed polymet project would excavate a pile of waste rock on the land 500 football fields big and 20 stories tall. Sulfide or copper mining threatens the aquatic and terrestrial ecosystem of Boundary Water Canoe Area, Superior National Park, Voyager National Park, and the province of Canada. Here's where the water runs. So it runs from the blue area in the bottom right-hand corner through Voyager National Park, International Falls, and continues north and west. The west pit of the Polymet mine is estimated to fill up and overflow into the Partridge River in about 45 years after the mine closes. The draft environmental impact statement noted that the discharge is predicted to exceed water quality standards for between 550 and 2,000 years. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency identified hard rock mining as the nation's top toxic producing industry. Throughout the whole country, there's never been a sulfide mine that hasn't polluted.